Hi everyone! I'm so excited to see you guys again. This lesson that we're going to be learning this week is actually a really cool story. It's one of my favorites, and I'm so excited to share it with you. Throughout the lesson this week, we are going to be doing another color by numbers page, so pay close attention for the different colors that pop up. Are you ready? This is the story about a young man named Joseph. His father's name is Jacob, and they lived in Canaan, from where his grandfather was from. Joseph was 17, and he had 11 brothers, and only had one brother younger than him. Can you imagine having 11 brothers to play with or to fight with? Because Joseph was one of the youngest sons, his father spent more time with him and became very special to him. So Jacob had a special robe made for Joseph. They didn't have jackets back then, but this was a very special one. It was very beautiful and it had every color you could imagine. All of Joseph's older brothers saw this and they got very jealous. The word jealous means that Joseph's brothers disliked him because they thought his father liked him more than them, and because he got a special coat. They got so jealous that they couldn't even say kind words to him anymore. One day, Joseph had a dream, and he went to go tell his brothers. He said, "Guess what? Last night I had a strange dream. We were tying up bunches of grain out in the field, and suddenly my bunch stood up, while all of yours gathered around me and bowed to me." The brothers looked at each other with disgust. But Joseph continued, "And then I had another dream, that the sun, moon, and 11 stars bowed to me." "Who do you think you are?" the brothers said. "Do you think you are better than all of us? Do you think we would ever bow down to you?" This made his brothers dislike Joseph even more. When he told his father about his dreams, he said, "These are strange dreams," but he thought carefully about what Joseph had told him. A few days later, Joseph's father asked him to check on his brothers. They were in the fields, quite a distance away, so Joseph went to find them. When the brothers saw Joseph in the distance, they made a plan to kill him. But when Reuben, Joseph's oldest brother, heard this, he said, "Let's not kill him. Just throw him in a well out here in the field," he said. He said this because he was secretly planning to come back and rescue Joseph when the other brothers had left. So when Joseph came to them, they took off his beautiful robe and they threw him in an empty well. A little later, a group of people came by that were wanting to sell some things in Egypt. One of the brothers spoke up, "Why don't we sell him to these people? This way, we never have to see him again, and we don't have to kill him." The other brothers liked the idea, so they sold him to the people who were going to Egypt. Unfortunately, Reuben had been working and hadn't seen what happened. When he returned to the well, he noticed that Joseph was gone. He had been sold to an important man named Potiphar, an assistant to the Pharaoh of Egypt. The rest of the brothers took Joseph's beautiful robe and dipped it in animal's blood and took it back to their father. When the father saw this, he cried, "Some animal has killed my son." And he cried for many days, so much so that nobody could comfort him. Now, Joseph had started out as a slave, but the Lord was with Joseph, and he helped him do everything right. So Potiphar made him his helper and put him in charge of everything he owned. The problem came when Potiphar's wife lied about Joseph to her husband. So Potiphar had Joseph put into jail. The Lord was still with Joseph in jail, and the warden put Joseph in charge of all the prisoners. He never worried because the Lord was with Joseph and helped him do everything right. After Joseph had been in jail for some time, a cupbearer and baker to Pharaoh had been sent there. One night, each of them had a dream. They told their dreams to Joseph, and he told the cupbearer that he would soon be let out of jail. "Please tell Pharaoh about me and ask him to get me out of here," Joseph said. When the cupbearer was freed, he forgot all about what Joseph did. So Joseph stayed in jail for 2 more years, until one day the Pharaoh had a dream. and nobody could explain it. The cupbearer then remembered what Joseph had done for him, and Joseph was brought to Pharaoh. "Can you understand dreams?" Pharaoh asked. "I can't, but God helps me," replied Joseph. After Pharaoh had told him his dream, Joseph explained, "God is warning you. There will be 7 years when nothing will grow and there won't be any food for anyone." "What can I do?" Pharaoh asked. "God has shown you what to do. There will be 7 years before the bad years that will be very good. So good that there will be extra food for everyone. So you should save a little bit of each year's harvest. That way, you will have enough to get through the bad years," Joseph said. Pharaoh believed all that Joseph told him and put him in charge of all the land of Egypt. People came from all countries to buy grain from Joseph, because the whole world was in need of food. Some of these people were Joseph's brothers. When his brothers came, Joseph recognized them, but they did not know who he was. It had been over 10 years since they'd seen him. The brothers all bowed to him because he was a very important person, just as he had dreamed they would do at the beginning. After a few meetings with his brothers, he could not keep it in any longer, and Joseph said to his brothers, "I am Joseph. Is my father alive?" But his brothers could not answer him because they were very afraid. Then Joseph said, "Come here. I am your brother, the one you sold. Do not worry and do not be angry at yourselves for selling me, because God has put me here to save people from starving." So his fathers, his brothers, and their families came to live in Egypt with Joseph, and they had all the food they needed. Lessons we can learn from the story of Joseph. Lesson 1. Being jealous is never a good thing. What things might make you jealous? What might your friend show off at school that would make you jealous? The Bible says we are God's children if we love Him and love one another. So when we see our friends with a cool new toy, we should not be jealous, we should be happy for them. Lesson 2. Always do your best and work hard. Sometimes it's hard to do the right thing, especially when things are a little hard for us, and we are jealous that something seems to be going really good for someone else. Joseph was a hard-working young man, and even when things got hard for him and he was in jail, he always tried to do his best. Lesson 3. He forgave his brothers instead of holding a grudge. When Joseph saw his brothers again, instead of staying mad at them, he chose to forgive them. Joseph could have been mad for a very long time. After all, his brothers did want to kill him and ended up selling him into slavery. But he decided to forgive them instead. Joseph shows us an example of what Jesus did for us. Just like Joseph's brothers hurt him, so do we hurt Jesus when we sin. And just like Joseph forgave his brothers, so did Jesus when he forgives our sins. Our Bible verse for this week is found in Romans 8:28, and it says, "And we know that all things work together for good to them that love God." Romans 8:28. Now it's your turn. Practice at home, and when you have it all memorized, record a video so we can all see. Thanks for joining me, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the lesson of Joseph. I miss you all, and I will see you next week.